Today, we will discuss about the facial nerve, guided by Dr. Bhushan Bhagat sir. We have learned the facial nerve in first year anatomy, and it's just a quick review of that. First, we will brush up with all the 12 cranial nerves. These are olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlea, trigeminal, abducens, facial nerve, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, spinal accessory, and the hypoglossal. We will see the facial nerve under this content. Introduction, nuclei of origin, cause and relation, branches, ganglia associated, and the surgical implication. Introduction. It is the seventh cranial nerve, also known as queen of the face, because it controls the muscle of the facial expression. It is the nerve of the second brachial arch. It is the mixed nerve with the motor and the sensory roots. Sensory roots called as nervus intermedius. It emerges from the brainstem between the pons and the medulla and controls the muscle of the facial expression. It also supplies the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers to several head and neck ganglia. Nuclei of origin. There are the four nuclei situated in the lower pons. The first is the metanucleus, which lies deep in the lower pons. Second is the superior salivatory nucleus or the parasympathetic. And the third is the lacrimatory nucleus, which is also the parasympathetic. And the fourth is the nucleus of tractus solitarius, which carries gustatory and also receives afferent fibers from the gland. In this picture, we can see the lacrimatory nucleus, nucleus of tractus solitarius, motor nucleus, and the superior salivatory nucleus. The cause and the relation. There is an intracranial cause and the extracranial cause. Intracranial cause. The nerve arises from the lateral part of the lower border of the pons and begins as two roots, larger motor root and the smaller sensory root. The two roots enter the internal acoustic meatus. The roots leave the internal acoustic meatus and enter into the facial canal, which is Z-shaped structure. Within the facial canal, two roots fuse to form the facial nerve, and then nerve forms the geniculate ganglion. Later gives rise to the greater petrosal nerve, now to the stapedius and the cauda tympani. In the facial palsy patient, now to the stapedius is paralyzed and the sound called hyperacusis, while the cauda tympani carries special sensory fibers to the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. In this diagram, we can see the larger motor root and the smaller sensory roots. It further gives the greater petrosal nerve, which carries parasympathetic sensory fibers. Then there is now to the stapedius, which supplies the stapedial muscle, and the stapedial muscle stabilize the stapes, which prevent the hyper movement of stapes and leads to the hyperacusis. And the third is the cauda tympani, which carries special sensation from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue via the lingual nerve. Extracranial cause. The facial nerve exits the skull through the stylomastoid foramen and passes near the lateral border of the styloid process. The first extracranial branch to arise is the posterior auricular nerve. It provides motor innervation to the sum of the muscle around the ear. Distal to these motor branches, there is a nerve to the digastric and the nerve to the styloid. Nerve to the digastric, which supplies to the posterior belly of the digastric muscle, and the nerve to the styloid, which supplies to the styloid muscle. The main trunk of the nerve, called as a motor root of the facial nerve, which continues anteriorly and inferiorly into the parotid gland. Within the parotid gland, nerve terminates into the 5 branches. These are the temporal, zygomatic, buccal, marginal mandibular, and the cervical. Branches of the facial nerve. In the facial canal, there is a nerve to the stapedius, cauda tympani, and the greater petrosal nerve. At the stylomastoid foramen, there is a posterior auricular nerve, posterior belly of the digastric, and the styloid nerve. On the face, it gives temporal, zygomatic, buccal, marginal mandibular, and the cervical. Motor function. Now to the stapedius, which supplies the stapedial muscle in the middle ear. Posterior auricular nerve, which supplies intrinsic and extrinsic muscle of the outer ear. Now to the posterior belly of the digastric, which innervates the posterior belly of the digastric muscle. And now to the styloid muscle, which innervates the styloid muscle. The ganglia associated are pterygopalatine ganglion, submandibular ganglion, and the geniculate ganglion. Surgical implication of the facial nerve. Relationship of the facial nerve to the TMJ. The most common anatomical structure facing during approach to the TMJ is the facial nerve. The main trunk of the facial nerve exits the stylomastoid foramen. The facial nerve lies 6 to 8 mm inferior and anterior to the tympanomastoid suture. Approximately 1.3 cm of the facial nerve is visible until it divides into the temporofacial and the cervicofacial branches. The distance from the lowest point of the external bony auditory canal to the bifurcation was about to be 1.5 to 2.8 cm, and the distance from the postglenoid tubercle to the bifurcation was around 2.4 to 3.5 cm. The auriculotemporal nerve provides most of the innervation to the capsule of the TMJ. Marginal mandibular nerve should be preserved while approaching the subcondylar surgery. In this diagram, we can see around 1.3 cm of the facial nerve is visible until it divides into the temporofacial and the cervicofacial branches. Distance from the postglenoid tubercle to the bifurcation was around 0.8 to 3.5 cm, and from the temporofacial division, it is 2.4 to 3.5 cm. Relationship of the facial nerve to the parotid gland. The gland is separated into the superficial and the deep lobe by the facial nerve. The superficial lobe is defined as the part of the gland lateral to the nerve and overlies the lateral surface of the masseter muscle. The deep lobe is located medial to the facial nerve and lies between the mastoid process of the temporal bone and the mandibular ramus. This plane is used in the superficial or total parectomy to avoid damage to the facial nerve. The main trunk of the facial nerve located between the maxillary vein and the superficial temporal vein and divides into the temporofacial and the cervicofacial division. Temporofacial divides into the temporal and the zygomatic branch, while the cervicofacial divides into buccal, marginal mandibular, and the cervical branch. During parectomy, the relationship of the facial nerve with the parotid gland should be considered to avoid complication like the facial nerve paralysis and the Freight syndrome. Freight syndrome occurs due to the auriculotemporal nerve injury. Facial paralysis. It refers to the facial muscle mainly resulting from the temporary or the permanent damage to the facial nerve. Causes would be viral infection, as seen in the Bell's palsy. Surgical causes would be the parotid gland surgery and the TMJ surgeries. Traumatic injury. There can be fracture to the skull and the face, birth trauma, and the destruction of the nucleus. Facial paralysis classified as the supranuclear lesion and the infranuclear lesion. Supranuclear lesion called as upper motor neuron, while the infranuclear lesion called as lower motor neuron. Supranuclear lesion, usually a part of hemiplegia. Only the lower part of the face is paralyzed. The upper part, that is frontalis, and the part of orbicularis oris escape due to the bilateral representation in the cerebral cortex. In the second diagram, we can see only the lower part of the face is paralyzed, infranuclear lesion. Entire face is paralyzed as seen in the Bell's palsy. In the first picture, we can see the entire face is paralyzed. In the upper motor neuron facial palsy, we can see there is obliteration of the nasolabial fold, drooping of angle of mouth with a dripping of saliva, accumulation of food behind the cheek, inability to blow the cheek, inability to show the teeth properly. In the lower motor neuron facial paralysis, we can see there is inability to raise the eyebrows with the absence of wrinkles of the forehead. There is inability to close the eye when the patient attempts to close his eye and the eyeballs rolls upward, as seen in the Bell's phenomenon. Clinical feature would be there is a loss of forehead wrinkles, inability to close the eyes, white palpebral fissure, epiphora. There is a continuous watering from the eye, loss of nasolabial fold, drooping of angle of mouth, dripping of food while chewing on the affected side. Thank you.